Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and today I want to put a short video together about some articles that you guys have been sending me. I've been reading up all about this, and I know so many of you at home, I absolutely hate the idea of EVs, everything they stand for. People say they're just not any fun, and they hate the direction that the car community is actually going to or being forced into this, all of that kind of stuff. Well, if that is the case, then you may actually like today's video, because today we're going to be talking about some of the pitfalls of EVs. There's all sorts of new stuff in the news right now, some stuff coming down from Tesla actually that may not actually look good for EVs, and I want to kind of cover it today. So we'll talk about some of the pitfalls of the EVs, some stuff that maybe not everybody is thinking about. It is just a weird world right now if you are a car fan. Also, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. The subscribe button is actually right down here in the corner. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, and off we go. So as we jump into the EV conversation, one of the things I've talked about on my channel at length is the fact that our infrastructure really isn't ready for full electrification, so to speak. One, electric vehicles are still pretty expensive for the most part. And the second part of it is just the charging thing. And so, you know, for those of you that only use it for commuting, say you got a little 30-mile trip to work, and then you got that on the way back, and you never use more than about 60% of your battery, it seems to work out pretty well. But one of the drawbacks is always, look, if I'm taking a road trip, how do I charge this thing? You got to plan ahead, all of that kind of stuff. Well, there is that. But another thing that's really interesting, I saw an article from theverge.com, and they actually are talking about the fact that Tesla sent out a bulletin right there on the big screen, the big infotainment screen right there in the middle, to a lot of the folks in Texas. Obviously, that is where I'm from. I now live in Tampa, but it is so hot there right now, and in other parts of the country as well. They're actually concerned about the power grid. They asked customers not to charge their cars between the hours of like 2 and 8 because of the drain on the power grid. Well, as you can imagine, that's going to throw a huge wrench in somebody's plans if you only have an EV, and then they're asking you, look, please don't charge your EV during these peak hours, because you're going to basically strain the already strained power grid. And mind you, EVs are just kind of on the way. You've got companies like Ford who just invested billions of dollars in electric vehicles. Now you see what's coming online from Dodge. We know all the other manufacturers are coming on board with EVs, but where are we with the infrastructure? There's so much more that has to go in to the, to the infrastructure so that we can actually charge these cars. It's amazing that Tesla actually came out and said, look, you can't charge these things right now. That's a problem in my mind. Now, something else that actually caught me off guard, and I was completely unaware of this until I did some research on it, is the manufacturing process itself. And when it comes to actually producing these electric vehicles, even though, yes, they may be more efficient on the road, and obviously there's zero emissions, the actual process of producing these cars actually puts out a lot more emissions at the factory level. So up front, these cars actually, they're more labor intensive to produce, and they are just they just produce more emissions, just the initial process. These batteries are made of lithium ion, and just all the things they have to do to get those together, the actually manufacturing of the batteries themselves, and everything else that goes into the making of that car. Who knew? It actually produced more emissions than a regular ICE or internal combustion engine car. And there's also that piece of it that we have not really been talking about. A couple other things that we definitely need to talk about when considering EVs, and I have mentioned this, I just don't know how much talk it's really out there about this. But as these things continue to get faster and faster, we all have seen just how incredibly fast, say, the Plaid is. Heck, even the long-range Model S is just stupid fast. A Model 3 Performance is a really fast car. I mean, these things are incredibly fast, 100% torque at 0 RPM, guys. I mean, if you've ever driven one, you realize how insane they are, and they're only getting faster. Heck, we have the Lucid Air out there. We've got the Navara, which is kind of a freak car. I mean, they made like 5 of them. But at any rate, now we're going to see Tesla come out with their new Roadster. Who knows what Dodge's new e-muscle car is going to bring to the table. But we're going to get into the realm of like these cars coming right off the factory floor running 8-second quarter miles, guys. I mean, even the Plaid running basically low 9s, and even stripped out, these things are running 8-second quarter miles. That is absolutely insane. For those of you that race, you know just how fast that is. And we're to the point now where these things are basically dangerous in the wrong hands. I mean, these are basically race cars, guys. And if you don't have enough experience to pilot a car like this, you could really get yourself in a lot of trouble. And we're starting to see some of this as the younger folks who are not really experienced with performance cars get in these cars. They just get the keys to them. And with the insane ability of these new vehicles, I mean, people are getting killed, and there's so much closing speed. They make no noise. And so when you really combine just those two things, and then when you have an inexperienced driver who doesn't really know how to look for different conditions, really kind of take into account the other people on the road, it makes for an extremely dangerous situation. So we may be in a kind of a deal where the government has to step in and start limiting just how much power these cars can really make, because we are just now scratching the surface of the ability of these vehicles. And, you know, it won't be long before your average soccer mom will be able to just go get in their electric vehicle that's capable of running low 8s or something. And that just spells kind of disaster for me. And the other thing that not a lot of people talk about is just how heavy these things are. I mean, these EVs, even though they're so incredibly fast, we forget how heavy they are. For example, the new Hummer EV is 9,000 pounds, yet it goes 0 to 60 faster than a red-eye does. Can you believe that? I mean, it's twice the weight, and it's still faster from 0 to 60. That tells you what kind of performance capability these have. But when you talk about when these things get into accidents, it's not necessarily just how capable that particular EV is of protecting its occupants, but what about when somebody smashes into you with a 9,000-pound EV that's capable of running quarter miles extremely fast? I mean, like 11-second quarter miles in a car that heavy. That's not going to bode well for the average person that gets hit by one of those. So there's also that piece of it. So at the end of the day, I just wanted to really put my thoughts together for you on this. I mean, think about it. All the extra expense and the extra emissions by just the upfront production of these EVs. Certainly the charging piece of it. What kind of drain will that have on the power grid when everybody's running EVs? Yes, it's great once we can all run around and not necessarily have emissions. I mean, it depends on who you ask. But also, how dangerous are these vehicles going to be as they continue to bump up in power and performance? There are a lot of different factors here to consider on EVs, guys, and maybe, just maybe, we're getting a little bit too far ahead of ourselves, certainly ahead of the infrastructure. And we know we've got the current administration obviously really pushing hard towards EVs and low emissions, but you got to consider the whole thing, guys. Everything has sort of a cause and effect. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. Just thought I'd bring a lot of this to your attention if you weren't already thinking about it, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.